When Bruce Lee left us in 1973, at the peak of his career, the production companies had to immediately look for a replacement. Incredibly, one of the candidates was today's well-known Jackie Chan, who, if we remember several of his movies, we can agree that he lacks the seriousness of Bruce Lee. In fact, he's more of a clown than a serious fighter, so how did they think Jackie Chan would be perfect for the role? And how did he transition from being an imitator of Bruce Lee to the benchmark in action comedy today? But to contextualize everything, why would someone in the first place seek a replacement for Bruce Lee? In the 1960s, Bruce had already made several films, especially in Cantonese cinema, which had been popular but only at a regional level. With the ambition to reach more people, Bruce moved to the United States to pursue his career as an actor in Hollywood. It was here where his great fame began with the role of Kato in The Green Hornet. Additionally, it was where his fighting style began to gain popularity. Although Bruce was not completely satisfied with the result, his character became quite popular on the show. Actually, it wasn't until he returned to Hong Kong that he discovered the show was known as The Kato Show, and he was a celebrity. It was in Hong Kong where he would create his greatest masterpieces and be the reason why production companies couldn't end his cinematic character. In 1971, Bruce made a deal with the famous production company Golden Harvest to make two martial arts-focused films. The first would be The Big Boss in 1971, resulting in a box office success, and the second would be Fist of Fury in 1972, surpassing The Big Boss. In just 2 years, the Hong Kong-based production company and others around were observing what the formula for making money was Bruce Lee. The following year, Bruce himself would be the producer, screenwriter, and director of The Weight of the Dragon, where the fighter Chuck Norris would appear in their epic fight in the Roman Coliseum. The martial arts expert did it again, and for his next film, Enter the Dragon, he would have foreign collaboration from Warner Bros. And would gross, adjusted for today's value, around $2 billion. This would be his last film before his passing, but as I mentioned earlier, at this point, all of what the production companies care about was continuing to exploit his image for maximum economic gain. And as you know, by 1973, there were no artificial intelligence or deep fakes to someone bring him back to life. So, if you were a producer and wanted to keep profiting from Bruce, you needed a replacement. This trend of seeking and using Bruce Lee imitators was known as Bruceploitation. The basic idea was to hire actors who looked similar to Bruce Lee to make martial arts films, but in reality, it went much further. Sometimes they even use footage of Bruce Lee combined with new footage, and then just make it seamless in post to make it look like the real Bruce was acting, as happened in Game of Death, where they combined some scenes that Bruce had filmed with new shots featuring his double, Kim Tai-jung. I understand that back then they didn't have today's special effects, but watching the cuts in the editing, I couldn't help but chuckle. It also reminded me of that scene in The Simpsons where they tried to continue the Fission Boy movie with different illogical cuts. Well, in Bruceploitation, Hong Kong production companies did something similar. To further confuse the audience, they gave actors names like Bruce Lee or Bruce Lee, Bruce Liang or Dragon Lee. As the 70s progressed, the exploitation became so obvious that there was hardly any audience left watching them, frustrated by their poor quality. Eventually, they were producing fake biopics and even placing Bruce in absurd situations, like fighting Superman or Dracula. Although, honestly, these do sound somewhat entertaining, which is why I think several of them are now cult classics. Strangely enough, it wasn't just the public's disdain that stopped the exploitation of Bruce. If it were up to the Asian production companies, they would have continued making bad movies with the Lee's clones. The only thing that halted the decline was that they found another goldmine: Jackie Chan. Up until then, Jackie had played some roles in movies and had also been a stunt double. All this was thanks to his incredible skills. He had experience in acting and choreography due to his training at the Peking Opera, and he was also trained in Kung Fu, Karate, Taekwondo, and was a black belt in Hapkido. This guy was the true jack of all trades. By 1972, thanks to his friend Sammo Hung, he was a stunt double in Bruce Lee's Fist of Fury, and in 1973, he also participated in Enter the Dragon. Thanks to this, Golden Harvest already had Jackie Chan in their sights for possible future projects, and with Bruce Lee's passing, they were obviously going to try the young Jackie as one of the hundreds of attempts to find the famous actor's successor. Lo Wei was the director who had this idea in mind, and although they didn't want to make it as obvious with Jackie Chan as with the other clones of Bruce Lee, Lo Wei still decided to make it a sequel to Fist of Fury, titled New Fist of Fury. So, if they didn't want to make it obvious, I think they were not in the right track if you ask me. Jackie was the protagonist of this movie, which did not do well at the box office. Despite this, they persisted a bit longer with films like Shaolin Wooden Man and To Kill with Intrigue. The problem with these attempts was that, like the other Bruce copies, it was very difficult to achieve the same impact. No matter how talented the actors were, as was the case with Jackie Chan, the only way out of Bruceploitation was to find another path that was equally or more profitable than Bruce Lee's successes. Producer NGC Yuen, and yes, I know how bad is my pronunciation of all these names, I'm really sorry. Well, this guy knew this, so he proposed to Jackie Chan to make a martial arts movie with several touches of comedy. The idea delighted the young actor, and they persisted until Golden Harvest itself agreed, hiring Yuen Wu-ping to direct it. The promise of the film turned into two different movies that mix comedy and martial arts, Snake in the Eagle's Shadow and Drunken Master, both released in 1978. To be fair, this mix wasn't entirely new. Comedy had already been used in A Spiritual Boxer in 1975, but it was still risky to produce two films that deviated from the pure action trend. After the release, both films were tremendously successful, leading many to abandon the idea of trying to revive Bruce Lee. Although the credit for this new phase of cinema doesn't belong solely to producers and the concept of comedy, what largely caused this genre to be reborn was the incredible performance of Jackie Chan. Comedy within the action of the fights was something that came naturally to Jackie and was perfectly reflected in the films. In the movies, Jackie appeared very different from Bruce Lee. He obviously had fighting knowledge, but he wasn't this almost mythological entity who could defeat anyone and was feared by all. Jackie was often a clumsy young man who knew how to fight, but despite clear disadvantages, managed to persist by using whatever he had on hand to get out of the trouble. He was like a Harold Lloyd or Buster Keaton with martial arts skills. Of course, this didn't mean he didn't suffer. Sometimes due to his clumsiness or inferiority against opponents, he had to endure significant hardships to deliver the best of his physical comedy, which in turn made him appear more human. This unique style continued to yield box office hits, with movies like Drunken Master, Police Story, and later in American films like Rush Hour. It wasn't just Jackie who shined. Friends of his also became stars, such as Sammo Hung, known for similar genres. The rise of Jackie Chan marked the end of one era and the beginning of another in martial arts cinema. While Bruceploitation unsuccessfully tried to replicate the uniqueness of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan's introduction of comedy into action films offered a refreshing and sustainable approach. His success showed that it wasn't just about filling the void left by Bruce Lee, but about reinventing the genre in a way that resonated with contemporary audiences.